Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnan Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. We were discussing Shirodbala Devi's reminiscences, and we all know that she became a widow when she was very young. And right from beginning, I mean, the day she came in touch with Holy Mother uh, treated her as if she was her own daughter. And because of Shirod Bala, a lot of other people, like her aunt and other people, were attracted by the message of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, and many of them came to visit the Holy Mother. In the initial stages, uh, it was difficult for her to come, though she was staying in Calcutta. In those days, women, especially widows, found it very difficult to travel without any male accompaniment. So, some male would invariably from the family, most of them were initiated by Holy Mother Sharda Devi. So, they used to come with her. But later on, she gathered enough courage to visit Holy Mother whenever it was possible, and sometimes she also stayed there, though her house was very near. So one such occasion, her aunt, she had inspired her aunt to visit. So before that aunt left for her native place, which was obviously not Calcutta, she came to visit the Holy Mother one morning along with her children. The aunt had several children perhaps, and she had come with that. Sitting her, Seeing her sitting with her legs stretched, mother used to have some knee problem. So very often she used to sit that famous pose of hers, which is normally found in the dining hall of all the monasteries, especially Belur Math. There is a huge painting where all devotees sit to take prasad. It appears as if Holy Mother is sitting there and seeing all her children eat. All So most of our dining halls in the Ramakrishna Mission Centers, Mutt and Mission Centers in India and also abroad, they have this wonderful photograph of Holy Mother where she is. That is a photo which was taken later towards the end of her life, and she was stretching her legs because she could not fold it. The knee was paining. She had developed arthritis and other, she was suffering from many ailments, and it was easier for her not to bend her knees. So she kept it stretched, and that's how she sat, cut vegetables, talked with people. So used to normally sit on the floor. She hardly used a chair. So naturally, she had to stretch her legs. So here we'll find that mother was cutting fruits for offering to the master. She did puja, but maybe during puja, she with great difficulty she could fold her legs and sit in a cross-legged position. But that was very rare. Most of the time, she stretched her leg and used to cut the fruits and other things which was offered to the master. And also, she used to help in cooking. Later on, after shifting to Udbodhan, it was easy. But Jerambati, with all these ailments, she used to cook for herself and for all others. That big family herself. Not only that, she used to clean the leaf plates and other things because Nalini would not do it. She would not do it only for the reason that she was afraid that people who belong to lower castes, if mother has fed them, they she did not like. So she would not clean their leaf plates. But Holy Mother, of course, did not mind, and she cleaned everybody's leaf plate in spite of the pain she was suffering from. But anyway, here she's sitting in Udbodhan, and all the children of her aunt and the aunt herself, Shirod Bala's aunt, they went and saluted the Holy Mother. Uh, the mother said to my aunt, the mother asked that aunt of hers, "Are they all your children?" My aunt replied, "Yes, mother, they are mine." Then the mother said, "Very well. Oh, how devoted they are. All of them have prostrated themselves." Normally, children would not prostrate spontaneously. They had to be told. Some elderly person would tell them, "Please prostrate," and then they would follow, or somebody has to show them. But here, as soon as they entered, all of them prostrated. So, mother thought that they have very good samskaras, and how devoted they are. So, my daughter knows everything about this place. Still, she has brought them here at this inconvenient time. Now, she is talking about Shirod Bala. They have come here, it's okay, but they have come when it is time for worship of the deity. I have no time now to talk with you even for a while, because, as you know, she was cutting the fruits. She was extremely busy, Holy Mother, even till the end of her life. So she was cutting the fruits for offering. Naturally, it was cut just before the puja. That is the tradition. Normally, fruits are not cut in the morning and offered in the afternoon. They have to be offered as soon as they are cut. So, naturally, it was time for puja, and she herself used to do the puja of the master in Udbodhan. And she found that these people have come just before the puja, and she would definitely not be able to spare more time for them. And while cutting the fruits, she used to talk to whoever comes. She used to do everything. There was no other way. She did not have so much of free time. Anyway, so she says, when she says, "My daughter knows everything about this place," means Shirod Bala knew that this is the time for worship. But somehow these people must have come late. It is now time for worship of the deity. I have no time to talk to you with you even for a while. My aunt said, she, that is Shirod, objected to her coming here at this time. So she supported. She said, "Shirod did not bring us here. She had actually told us not to come because it's a very odd time. But as we have no other time, we have come to you now. Mother, we want to take Shirod along with us to our native place for some days. I seek your approval." So the mother came to know the intention of this aunt was not to have that darshan. That is the last priority, perhaps. Though the children appeared to be so devoted, they had come actually to take Shirod, because they knew Shirod would not leave Holy Mother even for a moment. She always liked to be with her Guru as much as possible. Not only Guru, she was her Guru, her mother, her all in all. Uh, so naturally, the aunt thought that if Holy Mother approves, then she can take Shirod with her from Calcutta to her native place for a few days, the aunt's place, she, wherever her native place was. So she wanted that approval. So she came, and as usual, as normally householders have visit such holy places at their convenience, not at the convenience of. That is why these rules have to be made, and the timing has to be fixed, so that otherwise people, if they want to look after their own convenience, and after settling everything else, then you go to visit the Holy Mother or any such holy person or even the monastery, then it is not a good idea. One has to make time, one has to be eager. So, but she is explaining, she doesn't want Shirod to get the blame, because she had warned them, told her this is not the right time, mother will be busy with her puja. But anyway, uh, she wanted mother's permission. Mother also said, "What harm is there taking her to your native place? But it will be nice if you bear her traveling expenses when sending her back." "So we shall certainly do so," said my aunt. She, along with others, then got into their carriage. So they had just come for permission, but mother was very particular. She did not want her disciple, who had very little means, and naturally a widow would not have much money with her. Nobody would give money for her to spend on herself. Whatever she wanted would have been provided by the family, the relatives with whom she lived. And rest of the time she liked to be, she stayed more with the Holy Mother and other disciples, other not monasteries, but mainly Udbodhan house, so that she can enjoy the company of Holy Mother. But they agreed, because Holy Mother was conscious not only of her spiritual welfare, she knew it would cost some money for her to go. They would take, and then if they just ask her to go back and not pay the fare, it is not good. So he says, if you want to take her, you have to pay back. I mean, you please, it would be nice if you bear her traveling expenses for a return journey. Of course, while going, they would definitely pay, but then you have to, mother made it sure that Shirod did not suffer. So then one girl known to me had never seen the mother. Now, this is another incident, because her husband did not like such visits. There are many people, especially women, who wanted to come to Thakur and even to Ma. But somehow, because they were married to people who were not sharing the same mentality. For example, Sri Ramakrishna once pointed out this problem, pointing out to certain householders. He said, how many of you are like Balram Bose? One or two families only, where the entire family is devoted to uh, God, and they are holy people. Everybody has a similar mind, or even if they don't have a similar mind, they don't object to each other going to Sri Ramakrishna. So he says it is such a rare thing. And he was pointing out to M, because M had that problem. I think none of his family members were keen even to not only to visit Sri Ramakrishna, but allow M to visit. They would always blame him, and he had to face a lot of domestic problems, including the problems created by his highly, you may say, emotional or eccentric wife. And that's the reason, perhaps, because of these domestic problems, before meeting Thakur, he even contemplated suicide. But it was Thakur's grace that not only saved him, but we have the immortal Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, which was originally written by him, noted by him, and converted into elaborate text. He just took shorthand and then converted it into, after meditating on each incident for hours and hours together, in spite of his busy schedule. He was the principal of a school. So he was a very busy person. And in that busy routine, he could get some time off daily and go to a secluded place in his own school, because perhaps he did not have any seclusion in his own home. So it was very difficult for him to get a quiet atmosphere. So he used to, most of the writings which he did, the gospel, the elaborate description which was in his mind, in his photographic memory, he went on the top floor of his school, and which leads to the terrace, and there's a small space which he had converted into a secluded corner. So that is where M used to write all his notes. So, but it was not the case. Many husbands would not allow their wives, even if they were devoted, to visit the center. So one such girl who was very devoted to Holy Mother, she had heard about Holy Mother and was very keen to see her. But since her husband did not like her to go to visit holy people, but one day after her husband had left for his office, she pressed me to take her to the mother and bring her back before her husband's return. She was afraid. So she took an opportunity and said, since he has gone to office, I'll quickly go and come. That was the yearning that this little girl had to see Holy Mother. But Shirot told her, Mother takes rest at this hour of the day. You cannot see her now. Then she said, that little girl said, girl means she was a married, those days girls used to marry at a very young age. She said, let's go no matter what happens. She was so determined to meet Holy Mother. As soon as I entered mother's house along with her, I saw Golapma having her meal. I went to her with the idea that we would see mother after she awoke. So Golapma and all would eat after. Holy Mother had to take food early and she would go for some rest because she had to get up. But Golapma and others perhaps would be taking their meals later. So everybody had finished. Holy Mother would feed all the other people, including Radhu and all, and then go take some quick rest because she had to get up and again do many things like offering something to Thakur. It's not just a puja she did. She also offered at 3 o'clock. There is some offering has to be done. Then at night there are 3 or 4 offerings one has to do throughout the day. So I think Holy Mother would be doing all these things. So she was taking some rest, and Golapma got upset because I went that first let us go and wait there with Golapma and then we will meet the Holy Mother. On seeing me, Golapma burst out. How queer, queer are your ways? Why have you brought her at this time of the day? Are you not aware that this is the time when mother takes rest? I reluctantly said, why are you scolding me? Am I so foolish as to go to the mother before she wakes up from her sleep? After a while, I heard mother calling me, saying, come here, daughter. So somehow mother knew that though it was an odd time, she knew the situation, why this young girl who was keen to come and was afraid of her husband and wanted to come quickly and go back before her husband returned. Otherwise, she would be scolded. Approaching near, I saw her standing by the side of her bed. She asked, who is this? Then, who is this girl, dear? Did Gulab scold you because you have come at this hour? She even knew that Gulab would have scolded because they had come at an odd hour. And she knew Shirod Bala would not normally bring anybody at this odd hour. And that reason was not unknown to the Divine Mother or the Holy Mother. Well, it is the Master's kingdom. Holy Mother says something very significant. How can she scold? No rules and regulations are valid here. Here the door is open to all. Whenever one gets the opportunity, one may call on me. Don't take the scolding seriously, my child. So she relieved that girl who was afraid because Golapma was very strict and she had scolded both of them. Why did you come and disturb the Holy Mother? But she was so gracious and kind that she says, doesn't matter. Anybody can come to Thakur at any time. We paid obeisance to mother and left. I told Golapma, have you noticed with what a longing heart people come to see the mother? Why only the mother? People want to see you too. But the doorkeepers of the mother's house, as you are, want to push them out. Mother does not belong to one or two persons. She is the mother of all. Laughing, Golapma said, well, I accept it. You have won. The affection Golapma, Gaurima, Lakshmi Didi had for us is indescribable. They would try to, it's not that they did not have a great heart. They did not have compassion. They had, but they did not want people who without any reason would come at odd hours. You see, they were more particular about that because taking advantage of Holy Mother's liberal attitude, many people without any reason. Now this girl had obviously had a reason. She wanted to go back before her husband came. She was terribly afraid that he would scold her. So that is okay. But even otherwise, Holy Mother agreed or was ready whenever somebody had come. Because she knew in this world people are facing so many problems. And Golapma, Gaurima and Lakshmi Didi also knew that Holy Mother, if somebody comes with a yearning heart, they should be allowed to meet Holy Mother. Lady Doctor Pramoda Datta of Calcutta. Those days it was very, very rare for women to become doctors, and Pramoda was one who had completed her medical studies. A relation of mine hailed from the same place as myself. Her husband too was a doctor, and they were both Brahmos. One day, Dr. Pramod Datta expressed her desire. Pramod is a boy's name, Pramoda is a girl's name. So she expressed her desire to see Holy Mother. She very much pleaded with me to escort her to Mother's house. So one day we were ready for the visit. Instead of wearing her professional robe, that is the doctor's dress, normally doctors try to wear that dress when they go out, even though they are not on duty. Just perhaps that gave them that extra importance. So you will find many of the doctors that special dress you can identify. Sometimes in the earlier days, they also used to wear a stethoscope around their neck, even though they were not on duty. But anyway, she was wearing her, instead of wearing her professional robe, she put on a sari with red border. She did not even wear shoes. So she thought, I'm going to a holy person. I should not be dressed and deck up myself with all these ornaments and other things. She also sprinkled a little Ganges water on her head before she started for the mother's house. So you can see how much care and concern, how much devotion they had, and how much the purity they anticipated. They were thinking, if we are for some reason, because we are householders, we are impure, we should sprinkle ourselves some Ganges water on our head before we start. Even Swami Vivekananda, who did not believe in all these rituals, before he went to visit Holy Mother, he used to sprinkle Ganges water on his head and go and do Sashtang Pranam and just come away. So much importance they give to that purity. So she did the same thing. This doctor, though she was a modern woman, educated woman, who normally did not believe in all these things, but this lady wore a very simple dress, though she was a doctor, instead of wearing her professional robe, and came without wearing shoes, which is a very rare thing. People go on places of pilgrimage without wearing shoes, on bare feet. It is very common if when you go to Dakshineshwar and other temples. But to go to Holy Mother, especially a professional doctor, you will rarely see that. And on top of that, she sprinkled some Ganges water on her head before she started for mother's house. Going to the first floor in the mother's house, Udbodan, normally mother used to stay on the first floor, unless very rarely she used to come down. The ground floor, even now, if you go and see, there is a room which is something like a watchman's room. It is so small. And that is the room where Swami Shardanand used to sit. And not only sit, he wrote his entire Leela Prasang sitting there, with all the noise and the gatekeeper's job that he was doing. Whenever he was there, he used to see to it that disturbing elements would not enter that house, especially they don't go on the first floor. So mother used to stay on the first floor, and she rarely could come down because of her ailment. It was difficult to her climb down, to climb down regularly. So anybody who wanted to see her had to pass through Sharat Maharaj, who was just sitting near in a small office near the gate, and there was a narrow passage. So it's very difficult for anybody to just sneak in. They had to take the permission, that Maharaj would interview them and then allow them. If they are known or if they are really sincere, then they would get a chance to go upstairs. And there Holy Mother used to normally wait for them, because somehow she had an intuition when some children of hers used to come. Going to the first floor, one could see in the room adjoining the stairs a photo of the Holy Mother in meditation posture. All this was happened. This photo was taken by actually Swami Virajananji, I believe. Of course, some photos were taken by Sister Nivedita, and that is the photo that we worship, Holy Mother's photo. So in meditation posture, they would have kept that photo, and it is uh, a wonderful thing that just as Thakur worshipped his own photo, Holy Mother also used to sometimes worship her own photo, but normally she worshipped only Thakur's photo. Then Pramoda Devi, who was a doctor, asked, whose photo is this? Normally, you won't find photos of living people. Only when they die, in their memory, photos are hung. Or so she was really wondering, because she saw she looks like Holy Mother. Is it Holy Mother herself? But she is alive. Whose photo is this? Then Shirod Bala said, it is Mother's. She gazed at it for long and remarked, oh, I can see that she is Radha herself. I felt inclined to laugh. Shirod Bala felt like laughing, because she said, for being a Brahmo, how could she utter this? Brahmo Samaj, they did not believe in any deity, gods, goddesses. And they said they are all superstitions. You should worship the Nirakara, Saguna, but Nirakara, but Saguna. God without form, but only his qualities. Qualities like compassion, love, and all those things. So how could a Brahmo say that she looks like Radha? First of all, they don't like discussing the Puranas. They don't accept anything, including Krishna and all the other deities which Hindus believed. Brahmos considered themselves to be worshippers of the Nirakara, that is formless God with attributes, with different qualities like compassion and other things. So she felt like laughing, because is she joking? How can a Brahmo devotee say that she saw in that picture Radha herself? On the first floor, she met Mother and saluted her. She did pranams. After a while, Mother asked Sarla Didi, bring that boy and get him examined by her. Knowing that she was a doctor, she intuitively understood that though she had not worn the doctor's dress and she had not even announced that she is a doctor, as soon as she did pranams, Holy Mother said, bring the child here who is sick, and bring that boy here and get him examined by her. Now I do not remember whose child it was. I mean, Shirod Bala does not remember. But as soon as Mother uttered these words, Pramoda Devi quietly asked me, how could she guess that I was a doctor? The child was brought before her. At 4 p.m., sweets were offered to the deity, and Mother distributed the prasad to all except Pramoda Devi. Now, this was strange. You get her examined, but you don't distribute prasad to her. Now, Shirod Bala Devi was embarrassed, because she had brought this doctor, and Mother, strangely, which she never used to do, did not offer prasad. She gave it to all others, but not to her. I could not but feel embarrassed at this. Now, Pramoda Devi was repeatedly telling me, she gave prasad to all, but why not to me? I said to her, why don't you ask the mother? I did not dare to give her the prasad that was in my hand, because some prasad was given to Shirod Bala. She could have easily given, but seeing mother not giving the prasad, she felt a little hesitant to give her share. That is as if defying the mother, but they were all were surprised. Then later Pramoda Devi said to mother, Mother, you distributed prasad among all, but why didn't you let me have a little of it? So Pramoda Devi then had to ask, there was no other way. Then the Holy Mother replied, the mother said, you are a Brahmo, dear. You see how we very often misunderstand. It is not that she did not think that this doctor did not deserve prasad. From apparently people would be embarrassed and feel hurt if you are not offered prasad. And Shirod Bala also thought, I have brought my friend and mother is not offering prasad to her. But mother had different intentions. That is why it is sometimes very clear. It is it is better that we clear the misunderstanding and ask such people, especially if one is one's guru, what is the reason for why you do this? There are ulterior, definitely some causes or some reasons why people seem to break the rules sometimes and do certain things. So she says, you see what her logic was. Nobody would have thought this is why mother did not give. She says, you are a Brahmo, dear. How can I give prasad unless you ask for it? You see, she was so careful, because I have heard in some of her centers in Srinagar, for example, uh, one of her swamis told me this, that there are a lot of people who belongs to some other religion in Srinagar. As you know, there are very few Hindu people, so the idea of prasad is not very common among people belonging to other religion. Now you can't just force them to take something which they don't consider as sacred, or they may feel uncomfortable if they are offered to it. So, and that is why, even though they are our staff members, after puja and all, we are careful that we don't offer our prasad. It may be sacramental food for us, it may be sacred for us, but if they don't share the same faith about prasad, then it is not necessary to give it to them. So she thought, Pramoda Devi not only thought, it was very appropriate that Brahmos were not supposed to even bow down before gods, leave alone human beings, because that was the rule which Swami Vivekananda also scolded Rakhal or Swami Brahmananda when he saw him worshipping or bowing down before Mother Kali. He said, have you not taken a vow? We are all members of Brahmo Samaj. That was initially. So even he did not do pranams to Thakur when he first came. They used to just salute each other with folded hands. So here mother had kept apart. Though she hesitated to give her, but she knew if she asks, then I will give. She didn't want to hurt her feelings, because if certain people do not have that idea of prasad, and if it is offered to them, they find it very difficult. They either take it or they say, no, we are not supposed to take. So she did not want to trivialize this uh, giving of sacramental food. One should take it with lot of faith. So she says she had kept one rasgulla separately, and knowing fully well that if she asks, I have to give her, and then she gave it. The latter, that is, the doctor tied that prasad at the loose end of her sari and saluted the mother and returned home. She said to her husband, who was also a doctor, look, the place where I had gone today is a heavenly abode. The person I saw and whose feet I touched there is verily Radha. I have brought a little prasad for you. I shall give you only if you accept it respectfully. So Dr. Datta, who was her husband, so Pramoda Devi actually did the same thing. She learned from mother that if a person does not respect that prasad, he should not be given it. So he said, if you accept respectfully, I'll give you. Dr. Datta said, what does it matter to the universal mother if an insignificant person like me does not eat her prasad? Saying this, he took the prasad in his palm, touched it by his head and ate. So now it is difficult to understand whether it was his ego that was making him tell this. So what does it matter to the universal mother if an insignificant person like me does not? It may be humility also, true humility, that he thought himself so insignificant that he did not have the guts to refuse. Said, she is the universal mother. You have seen her as Radha, and I would believe that, and he took that prasad, part of it. Pramoda Devi too described to him her experience in detail and said repeatedly, today I visited Vrindavan and so saw the holy feet of Radharani. I have been blessed. So you see, most of these Brahmos, though they were not followers, even Keshav Chandra Sen, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, who was the one of the original members or founders, he also used to secretly worship the Divine Mother. Vijay Krishna Goswami, they are all preachers. They used to preach something, but in the heart of their hearts, they could not but respect or worship the deity which their family had or their ancestors had worshipped for ages. For example, Vijay Krishna Goswami belonged to that famous Goswami family who are Vaishnavas. So Thakur used to say, outwardly you are a Brahmo, but your heart is full of devotion. He could see it, he could see. And then Vijay Krishna Goswami also used to dance when Krishna Kirtan was going on. So those people, because of the rules they had made for themselves, unfortunately could not express. Even Master Mahasaya in the beginning, he would not appreciate. And Thakur used to make fun of him. See, he's a professor, he's an old man. Though he was not very old at that time. Compared to Narendranath, he was just a few years old. But seeing the young people dancing and Master Mahasaya sitting, see, he's a master. He is very serious and he's not free. That's why Thakur used to say, Lajja Ghrina Bhoy, Teen Thakte Noy. Means, in Bengal, it means, Lajja is some kind of shame. People who used to come there, Thakur had absolutely no sense of shame. I mean, shame not in that sense, in a positive way, that what will people think if I dance and all those things. That is a result of our ego. We create labels for ourselves and think that we are gentlemen, we belong to this Brahmo Samaj, we should not do this, we should not do that. But when all came before Thakur, including Keshav Chandra Sen and the other leaders, strangely they found that all their exclusiveness, all their narrowness, all their bigotry, though they preached it outwardly, but inwardly they felt somewhat liberated when they came to Sri Ramakrishna. They felt that they had come where all these rules and regulations do not really matter. Thakur was so all inclusive. But at the same time, even Holy Mother, though she was a very liberal, more liberal than even Thakur, but still she had the common sense and she had that wonderful insight into the nature of other people, and she did not want to disturb. If they are Brahmos, if they don't have respect for prasad, let them not take it. It is not necessary that everybody should have the same respect. If they have respect, let them take it. So you see, every action of Holy Mother, we can see how much, though she was compassionate, and normal people, people who are gross, would have misunderstood. They would have perhaps thought, if Mother had not given this explanation, that doctor lady would have thought that Mother is not giving me because I am impure or for some reason. She is narrow-minded or bigoted, having certain principles which perhaps do not permit her to give me prasad. But she didn't realize that she was ready to give prasad to anybody, but if somebody doesn't want it, she respected their wish also. So when my aunt and others left for their native place, now this is Shirodbala, after she narrated this incident, she says, such a skeptical, I mean, such a lady, educated lady, was a follower of Brahmo Samaj and were not supposed to accept that human beings can be considered as divine incarnations. She says that I have visited Vrindavan and seen the holy feet of Radharani, that is Holy Mother's feet. Anyway, now this aunt who was requesting Holy Mother to send Shirodbala Devi to her native place, Shirodbala, for some reason, did not accompany them. Though Mother had given her permission, back at the native place, my uncle wrote me a letter saying, I feel very sorry that you have not come. It fills my heart with great joy when I think that you have dedicated yourself to the feet of the Divine Mother. If you ever happen to come to your native place, do so after surrendering at the feet of the Mother your mind, which is the root of all troubles. Only then you will be free from all worry. Now, this letter, what it meant, she was a bit confused. She says her uncle was little upset because though mother had given permission to Shirodbala, she was an independent lady. She was very happy to stay with Holy Mother. She did not want to miss her company. But Holy Mother would not say that. She was liberal. So she said, you go. Why don't you go? What is wrong in going? But the uncle felt perhaps a little upset, or we do not know his intention, but he is wording his letter very carefully, saying, I am very happy to know that you have dedicated yourself to the feet of the Divine Mother. So if you ever happen to come, do so after surrendering at the feet of the Mother your mind, which is at the root of all troubles. So indirectly, he is trying to perhaps give a hint that see to it that there is a genuine reason why you chose not to come to your native place. If you have really surrendered to the Holy Mother and you cannot miss her company even for a while, then it is fine. There will be no worry. But don't come, leave the worries with Holy Mother. If at all you decide to come, come with an open mind. That's so. Mother appreciated this. I read out the letter to the mother, and on hearing its contents, the mother said, is the mind the cause of troubles only? Even when you try to attain, when you try to attain Brahman, you shall have to carry with you the mind too. When you attain to it, none of them will be there. At the present stage, the assistance of the mind is very necessary. It is the pure mind which shows man the path. Now, this is a very, very important Vedantic truth, which most people who take up Advaita Vedanta intellectually understand it and just like parrot-like repeat that we have to go beyond the mind. Now, Mother is very practical. Nobody would have been a greater Advaitin than Holy Mother. She was practicing Vedanta every day, every second, every minute of her life. But even she says, why should you be hypocritical? My mind may be the cause of all troubles, no doubt. But that doesn't mean that because it is giving you trouble, you just ignore it and think that you are able to transcend it. No, you have to use it. You have to carry that mind with you wherever you go. How can you just drop the mind? Maybe it is possible for Brahma Gyanis, those who follow the path of Jnana Yoga. But you are living in the world, you are having so many attachments, raga, dvesha, as we discussed in Rajoga. The five kleshas are there. So wherever you go, even if the area in that place is good, that atmosphere is good, but still you are carrying your baggage wherever you go, and the moment you open the bag, those kleshas you can't get rid of it so easily. So he says, even if you are sincere, you want to attain Brahman, you just can't say that I'll just drop my bag and go. That doesn't happen. That bag should be clear. If there are things inside that bag, then you better dispose it off first. That means make the mind pure. Making the mind pure means slowly getting rid of all our samskaras. Samskaras in the sense, the evil samskaras of raga, dvesha, starting with avidya, asmita, ego, raga, attachment to things that we like, and detachment, dvesha, and, going away from things that you don't like, and fear of dying, or maybe fear of life, abhinivesha, or clinging to the physical existence desperately. So all those things are directly or indirectly part of the baggage which we use when we travel in this world. And you can't say that I'll just drop my bag. It may be very easy to say, but then somebody will say you can't just drop your bag here. You take it with you. If you don't want, you distribute the contents. And then you take that bag and give the bag also to somebody else. So it is a slow process. So that is why Jesus, when many of the fishermen who followed him and became disciples, first he said, you are fishing the fish. Be fishers of men. If you want to be fishers of men, you come. So most of them understood. But there were a few maybe who were a bit more prosperous. So when Jesus said, dispose your baggage and come, he didn't say use these words. He said, sell what you have to and give it, distribute it among the people, and then come if you want to become my disciple. Now they refused. Some of the fishermen came, they became wonderful disciples, but the others could not. And Jesus, pointing to them, told the other disciples, see, how can he come? He has attachment to the bag which he considers to be so precious, his things. He just cannot give it up. So that is what Holy Mother means, that the mind alone is not the cause of all the troubles. You just can't dispose. You have to carry the mind wherever you are, slowly dispose of. That is Tanukarana. We saw how the four samskaras, four ways. One is Prasupta, that is in a potential form. Even a child looks very innocent, but when he grows, unfortunately, those samskaras which are Prasupta, they awaken. That's why you are shocked. How can this child, which was always surrounded by holy people, the moment he leaves their company, he becomes so evil, so wicked? Because the samskaras were prasupta, the kleshas were prasupta. Prasupta means, so that is why when we discussed Raj Yoga, we took each of these kleshas very seriously. That is exactly what Holy Mother is saying. He says, at the present stage in which you are, the assistance of a mind are very necessary. It was very easy for that person to tell you or guide you, but unless you first purify the mind, which then will become your companion, then you see the path and then you start. Then this lady, I mean Kshirodbala, who was Holy Mother's disciple, immediately wrote to her uncle so that his doubts are cleared. And she wrote, I wrote to my uncle these words of the mother. On this occasion, the Holy Mother said this also. As you turn the direction of the wicked mind, that mind itself will be able to grasp the chosen deity. However, you have nothing to worry. The Master is holding you by the hand. In every circumstance, he is with you. So she gives her consolation. She says, don't worry. If your bag has many things, I mean, your samskaras are there, which apparently are very evil. You just turn it, change the direction. For example, Thakur used to say, just turn the direction. If you have jealousy, you feel jealous that you are with others who have made progress, and try to uh, compete with them. If you have ideas of competition, don't compete for money or wealth and any gross thing. Compete with others. That quality anyway is there inherent in you. So Thakur used to say, even if you have anger, just change that anger and direct it to God. That is what Holy Mother is saying. When you change or divert or direct that anger towards God that He is not revealing you, the same anger which caused problems, that same klesha gets purified. So whatever you direct towards the Lord, in a good way, of course. That's why they say even Kamsa and some Shishupala and all, they had to die. They had to die because Sri Krishna had to kill them. But they did so by hating the Lord. But because they directed their anger, their hatred, and all their evil qualities to God, though they were killed, physically they were killed, but they got liberation. That is what our Shastras say. So there is a deep psychological truth here. So she is telling this to Kshirodbala. He says, I deeply felt many a time in my life the immense strength behind those words of the mother. That she said, you don't have anything to worry because you will be able to grasp the deity. If you keep the deity or your Ishta in front of your mind, whatever you may be doing, good or bad, if you open your heart to the Ishta and focus on him, then you have nothing to worry. And then in that case, whether your intentions are good or bad because of your old baggage or samskaras, he says the master is holding you by the hand. Even if you are not able to hold, the master is looking at you, knowing your deficiencies, knowing your troubles. In every circumstances, he is with you. So that gave a tremendous strength to Kshirodbala Devi. Then she says, one afternoon there came some women, one of whom asked the mother, Mother, many people say that Gauranga Mahaprabhu is not an incarnation of God. Is it true? The mother said, people may say so, for it is not easy for them to comprehend a human being as an incarnation of God. In brief, everybody could comprehend him as an incarnation of God. He would not have had to preach divine love at the cost of being beaten up. While saying this, tears rolled down mother's cheeks. And then she said, can anybody recognize an incarnation? Only one or two persons can recognize him. How much suffering do they undergo for the liberation of human beings? Even when the master used to vomit blood, he never stopped speaking. He was all the while worried about the well-being of people. He said if everybody had recognized a human being as an incarnation of God, if they had the spiritual sensitivity to do it, they would not have crucified him. They would not have beaten him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some ruffians were sent to beat him because the priests believed that he is taking away their followers. People are just mad after him. So they wanted to punish him, and he had to face all these things. And when she was saying how these great prophets, some of whom were even crucified, had to suffer at the hands of ignorant people, she felt that she was reminded of her Ishta or of Sri Ramakrishna, who towards the end of his life, though he was suffering from cancer, leave alone trying to cure himself, he just was like Buddha, who refused, who scolded his disciple for having refused somebody who wanted to hear from him. Even on his deathbed, he gave whatever he could. So even the master, she said, never stopped, allowed anybody. He used to continue speaking, giving them wonderful words of wisdom, even when he was on his deathbed. Then there is a statement of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, which now Holy Mother is saying, come repeat the name of Hari. This is a Bengali thing. If the translation will not, it is not easy to understand what the translation means. Magur Macher Jhol means the delicious soup of Magur fish. Magur fish, it is a bit sour and it's a bit pungent, this Magur fish. It's a very popular soup where fish is put, and then there is, come, repeat the name of Hari and you shall have the delicious soup of Magur fish and the embrace of a young woman. Now this shocked many people. How can Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this? Because the mother explained the context of the statement, also what people took for it, what people, gross people will at first glance, they will misunderstand because everybody is gross. When the delicious soup of Magur fish, they'll take it literally. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them, you just take the name of Hari, even if you don't like it, because I will give you, you come with me. He was so keen that people should have devotion that he said, you take the delicious soup of Magur fish will be offered, and that was a delicacy, so naturally people would flock, only to find that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meant was something different. And the embrace of a young woman. Now people who are full of lust and who are attracted to Kamini Kanchan or lust and gold, naturally they will find it very tempting. If religion can be practiced with these two things, if we get good food and we can satisfy our senses, then lot of people used to flock out. Many would not know the inner meaning of this, and they will just flock to find that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really meant. That mother is explaining now. What do you, the real purport is, the real meaning, as Sri Ramakrishna used to, this of course Sri Ramakrishna used to say that in the gospel, mother is just quoting from the gospel. And Thakur used to say what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meant was, Magur Macher Jol means when you cry for the Lord, when you repeat Lord's name, a day will come when your tears will flow. And those tears, normally tears are salty in taste. So the Magur Macher Jhol, Jhol means the soup, that also tastes a little salty, a little pungent. So he says the tears of devotion which you will get after repeating the holy name of Hari, you will get that. Then what happens to this embrace of a young woman? The young woman is nothing but earth, Mother Earth. He used to say that because once you get that ecstasy when you repeat the name of Hari, when you say Hari Bol, you might have noticed in the gospel, many of the young Choto Naren and Bhavanath and all those people used to roll in the soil and roll in ecstasy. They were so much filled with bhava. Thakur's presence would fill them with bhava, and they used to roll on the soil. They could not even stand erect. They would just fall down. So when you fall down, you are actually embracing the mother, embracing earth. That is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indirectly meant. And people took it literally. And he said, whatever may be, let them be attracted by these worldly things and take the name of the Lord by hook or by crook. Thakur used to say that if somebody is pushed into a river or somebody voluntarily jumps into the river or in water, anyway he'll get wet. So mother is trying to explain that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, let them repeat the name of God, no matter how worldly they are. Let them be attracted by these two things, these delicious items and the embrace of a young woman. But the real purport they will understand if they persist and they come and repeat the holy name. At length, then she said, what do you need an incarnation for? To anyone, his own guru is far superior to even an incarnation of God. Try to understand this and keep steady. So she is giving her parting advice to Shirodbala, because she felt that even if you don't understand the significance of incarnation, just have little faith in your guru's words. In that sense, guru is far superior even to an incarnation, because half belief or no belief in an incarnation and keeping doubting whether how can a human being, because that is what Brahmo and other people, though they, first of all, they did not accept an incarnation. But here in this context, Holy Mother says the Guru at least is accessible. Can you not just listen to me, have little faith? And to anyone who his own Guru is far superior to even an incarnation of God, try to understand this. Don't just blindly accept it, but try to understand this and keep steady. Now, what does she mean by keeping steady? Keeping steady means just following what exactly the instructions are. Then you will be able, not only by your Guru's grace, but the incarnation will give you enough understanding. And through his grace, through the incarnations, that's why we call Sri Ramakrishna as Guru Maharaj. The reason why they said, because all the direct disciples, for them, though they had different ishtas, some of them had Rama, like Swamiji was given the Ram mantra. There were other deities, and Thakur used to freely give different mantras. Sharat Maharaj, for him, he said, you should think of God as the mother. So he was a Shakti worshipper. So different deities were being taken as Ishta. But still, it was their reverence to their Guru. whether Swamiji first accepted him as an incarnation or not. That is why Swamiji was very particular in the West. He said, never make this mistake of forcing people to accept that he is an incarnation. If you worship him as a saint, as a guru, as a holy man, simply as a holy man, let them take it. If they are sincere, they will reach their goal. So this is what is the implication of when Holy Mother says to anyone, his own guru is far superior to even an incarnation of God. That doesn't mean they are, she is trying to tell that you just have some kind of guru worship. No, what she says is, if you have faith in a guru whom you can see, whom you can consult, whom you can talk to, and if you believe in an incarnation without faith, without real faith, then it is useless. You may say, I believe in this God, that God, and at the slightest problem, you say the God is not answering my prayers. That is what normally happens. People say, okay, why do I need a guru? Thakur or many other gods and goddesses are there. But how much faith do we have? Do we understand whether Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we just quarrel. We say that, oh, he is not an incarnation of God. It hardly matters, because according to Mother, if we understand this idea, this concept of what the concept of guru is and what the concept of an incarnation is, it is not very easy. Hardly few people, she says, understood that one is an incarnation. Others simply verbally, by lip service, they do lip service and say, oh, I believe in Thakur, is an incarnation. When Girish Ghosh, a person with tremendous faith, even when he said, you are definitely, he was quarreling with others and trying to prove that he is an incarnation. Then Thakur said, who cares for your words? What have you understood? That made him come back to his senses. He said, who are you to claim? Have you understood what an incarnation is? That's why when during Kalpataru, Thakur asked him, you are just preaching everybody that trying to convince everybody that I am an incarnation. What do you see in me? Have you recognized me? He was just testing Girish Ghosh. Then Girish Ghosh, by now his ego was completely shattered. He just bowed down before Thakur and said, if Vyasa and Valmiki who wrote Ramayana, and Vyasa who wrote all the exploits of Krishna and the Mahabharata and the Vedas, even they could not understand your greatness. So how can you expect a fool like me to do? So that is when Thakur was very pleased. He said, now you are right. You just go about shouting that I am an incarnation, I am an incarnation. What does it matter whether you understand? In that sense, we have to understand why Mother said that a guru is far superior even to an incarnation of God. Not because of they are really superior, because just as they say, a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. So accepting an incarnation without faith is like two birds in the bush. But accepting the guru as a guide is at least having one bird in the hand. So that proverb that a bird in hand is better than having several birds in the bush. So that is exactly what our problem is. That is why it is very important to understand. These may be very casual statements, but Holy Mother was so particular, and then she is ending this sentence. See how carefully she is ending. She says, try to understand and keep your mind steady. Now that is what is required in sadhana. It is difficult to understand, and once having understood, our faith goes up and down in waves. So without a steady faith, which is known as Shraddha, you cannot make progress. That is the conclusion. So if there are some questions, I'll just answer. Otherwise, I'll take leave. Tomorrow, as I announced in WhatsApp, at 9:30 a.m., there are so many classes. In fact, I was wondering whether I should take the class today because I had my booster dose. Hopefully everything should be okay tomorrow. If there is no reaction, I just had my booster. So tomorrow it's a very uh, tight schedule, 9:30 British time, which is Philippines. I think it is late in the evening. Philippines Manila Center, which is a new center that Swami requested me to talk on the universal message of Sri Ramakrishna. So it is no doubt, it is a uh, Google Meet, and they have a capacity of 100. So those who enroll on Google, the link has been given to you on WhatsApp. The first 100 will be able to log in. Later on, they say if you can't, for some reason, there is a Facebook link also. You can watch live on Facebook. Maybe you can even type your questions there, but you can't interact. So Facebook Live is also there for those who cannot log in. I do not know how many people will be attending because it was primarily meant for Philippines Center. So they have their own group and they have distributed this link to other groups also. So tomorrow at 9:30, just check. I'm not very sure what time it is. What is the time? I think it is 9:30. If you just check your WhatsApp, I have given everything. I have given the Google link and also the Facebook link for those who cannot log in. And our gospel class will be held as usual at 5:30. Now all this provided and hopefully I don't have any reactions. But anyway, this 9:30 class, I think it will definitely be there. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.